What is up guys, Wraec here with a new video, and today I want to talk about a hero that in my opinion doesn't see enough use this season, even though you should probably use it and he's an absolute powerhouse. And maybe you have some heroes where you feel the same, where you also say like, oh, hey, this is such a great hero and I can't understand why people don't use him. Then tell me down in the comments which hero you think should be used way more, and maybe we'll make a video about that hero as well. So for today though, we are going to talk about Seth. And Seth is not only great because he's a Mauler, he's also rogue, and he is like a budget version of Wraec essentially. And you know, we recently did a video about Wraec. He did very well, but many people of course can't use Wraec just because he's a hypergen hero and is hard to summon. Here we come with a budget alternative, so let's take a look at a little bit of a fight here. We are going to attack Mega Fungi just because he has a mean bio, which I can't accept, so we have to take care of that. And we are going to do so with a Mauler team with Seth in there. Sadly on this map you can't use the second tile, otherwise I would place Wraec on there. We are going to go in there right now with the Seth team, and usually, I tried that a few times already, I have to say, this team has a pretty nice win rate against his team. So that is a thing to note. We're getting the first enemy now below 50%, which is an interesting point, because at that point Seth starts getting buffs, and he actually gets a buff called Bloodlust, and this buff gives him haste, gives him lifesteal, and even gives him crit. And also when the first time he gets this, he buffs his own Fizz and Magic Death and becomes really tanky. And with the lifesteal together, he becomes an absolute monster, and is quite similar to Wraec in that extent. If you just saw the end of this fight, you could see that they pretty much move the same. They also jump to the next enemy, to the weakest enemy, attack them, and during the duration of the fight, the more enemies they defeat, the stronger they get. Well, for Seth to an extent, because he only can get 3 buffs. For Wraec, the limit is of course a bit different. But if you take into consideration that this Seth was Supreme plus +5, and we have Wraec here at Paragon 2 +20, and they were already close in terms of damage numbers, and I have to say I have seen fights where Seth beat out Wraec in terms of damage, then this kind of it becomes a very interesting hero, because he's very cheap. He is an A tier, he's an A tier Mauler after all, so you don't really have to invest a whole lot to get this guy. And in fact, and I don't want to play this down, he is also in the Dream Store. So if you lack a hero you can go get from Dream Store, of course after you got major heroes like Odie, well, that is an option. That is an option. This one might lack the heroes from the newer season, but there are still some units from the older season. Well, he's from the start of the game was actually there, but this one is actually a unit. So let's take a little bit of a look into his skills, and I tell you how far you want to upgrade him, which charms to get, etc. So first of all, we have Shadow Strike, his ult, really nice ult. He becomes invincible, same as Wraec actually, and selects the weakest enemy, which means we have a very nice damage here that we target the weakest enemy with. We get more HP recovery per Bloodlust stack. Bloodlust being the ability we just talked about. Hunter's Instinct is the ability that grants him a buff whenever an enemy non-summoned unit falls below 50%. So he's not really the greatest one in terms of boss fights, because we don't usually have non-summoned enemy units in a boss fight. We just have one boss usually, which is a little bit of a problem, so we can't really gain Bloodlust stacks there. If he could, however, gain Bloodlust stacks in a boss fight, he would be an interesting damage dealer. Not only that, at Supreme Plus, he also gains the ability to reduce the enemy's Fizz death per Bloodlust stack. So he could be a very nice debuffer. So keep that in mind. Just a little note you want to take in the back of your head. When there is an enemy that has non-summoned units, a boss, this one can be a nice Fizz death debuffer. And if you need something with this, maybe for a Primordial boss, we have seen ones that summon non-summoned units. Well, this is a strange thing to say, in the past, so this might be something to note there. And against a ton of buffs there, you can buff it a little bit more, which we actually do, and at this point I want to go into the charms. Charms, I have haste skill power. Skill power, really interesting. The set we are using is of course the Mystic set. Just had to look how it was called. Mystic set, yeah, it is Mystic set. It's a Mystic set. granting us the haste and skill power. I didn't really see any other ones that were too interesting. This one is really nice because it grants us the extra buffs that we get here. 1.5 haste per 5 skill power, so we get 7.5 extra haste, 3 stacks, giving us a very nice 22.5 extra haste. A really, really nice buff, plus the stuff we have from the type boost as well. So that is a really, really huge haste buff that we have. Attack buff, quite interesting. The hunting spree is the one that recovers some energy. So basically, whenever he assists, or basically whenever a non-summoned enemy is defeated, he just resets his cooldown on Praetor's Lunge. Praetor's Lunge is this ability, 6.5 second cooldown usually, deals a ton of damage. 150% damage plus 25% of target's lost HP. And this is all, this just gets reset so you can cast it again, and also 200 energy so you can get to his ult a lot faster. And this all turns out to look the way we just watched it. If we take another look at it, maybe you can take a look at the abilities as well. So let's see. And we just battle. And the way for this Predator's launch really enables him to jump over the board insanely fast and get to enemy units insanely fast. His condition basically to start dealing damage is that there is an enemy unit that can go below 50% HP. And similar way to Wraec actually, that is in a way his weakness. Because if he can't get an enemy unit there, well, he just doesn't scale well, and in my opinion, he needs like 1 or 2 buffs to really get going, to really start dealing proper damage. And if this is just not the case, it really doesn't happen. In the same way as Wraec just needs to defeat 1 enemy to really get going. It's the same with Seth, and we actually see him right here out damaging Wraec, granted with the buff from the tile. But still, a rather interesting approach that we can take here. And I was really looking more into Seth when I was looking basically into rogue heroes a little bit more. I wanted to get a little bit of a burst team going to go with Wraec, because Wraec just needs somebody to defeat an enemy very swiftly. And I tried multiple combinations. In PvP, I actually ended up using the comp that you just saw on the screen. I tried that multiple times in Supreme Arena, and that worked really, really well. I wouldn't necessarily use that without the Mauler tile, because the Mauler tile is the last thing that I want to note that grants Seth power in this season. We just saw it in battle, and this Mauler tile, it was undervalued throughout the season a little bit, I have to say. Now that we see the full extent of the power and people start to experiment with it a little bit more, it is actually really nice. We first of all have life drain, we have unaffected in here for the first 12 seconds, and we also get basically a Brutus type immunity for 5 seconds, all from this one tile, which works great if you have very offensive units and very offensive playstyle. And not only that, we also get to teleport enemies over to the enemy side. And another nice way to combine that is actually with the frontline spell, because whenever an allied hero first enters the enemy side of the battle, we gain a shield, okay, and when 3 different allied heroes have entered the enemy side of the battlefield, we place the banner of inspiration there, and the banner not only increases our damage by 18%, but also reduces enemy damage by 20%. And if we fought once again at the last time, now watch the battle against Mega Fungi, you will see how quickly this flag goes up if we combine that, and we only have 1 tile here. We just instantly shift the battle over to the enemy team, and bam, the flag is up within the first few seconds of the fight. And this furthermore enables us to establish a little bit of foothold in the enemy side of the team, or in the enemy side of the battlefield, and makes it way easier for us to survive there, because now the enemy is basically nerfed, no longer huge damage, as they get nerfed by the frontline spell, and they won't go out there because our entire team, aside from Ludovic, is now on the other side of the battlefield, and there we can yield basically, or get the full result, the full buffs from our frontline spell, and make use of our Mauler spell, because it is really, really difficult actually to defeat a Seth or a Wraec with this Mauler spell. In those 5 seconds of immunity that you have right there, they can do so much harm. It's actually crazy how much harm a Wraec or a Seth can deal in 5 seconds once they are immune. It's crazy. And also, during that time, they will obviously recover the full life again, granted all the life drain that they have. So yeah, insane unit, budget version of Wraec, easy to summon, because he's just an A tier. I mean, you can set him on your wish list. You should get some heroes in advance. Maybe this is something we should cover as the last thing in this video. Because if we take a look here, there are some heroes, obviously, you want to go first. You want to get Odie. You want to get your Coco first. maybe want to get a Kruger as well. But then, honestly, you could go for Seth. I would probably go on Tundra first, but then Seth is probably alright to go for, and you will get a great PvP unit that you can use probably even in Arena very well. Can use some things there, and at least in Supreme Arena, especially in this current season when you get to activate Mauler tile and use him as one hero for a Mauler center team. You will get insane results with him, and you will probably be very happy to discover this guy and make the full use. And you can see you don't even need a huge investment. I would say you don't need this Supreme Plus. I would go for M Plus on him. I would go for M Plus because that's a really nice ability. So that being said, did you like Seth? Did you use him before? Tell me down in the comments. And other than that, I wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one.